Welcome, Courtland, to Sippin Sunday, the podcast. I'm super excited to have you on. Let our listeners know what you're sipping on or what your favorite drink is.
Hey, I'm super excited to be here. I'm currently sipping on some Penny White.
Henny White is crazy on a weekday, but that's fine.
Hey,
I'm drinking Thai tea.
so this is a special occasion.
That's true. It's Sippin Sunday. That is very true. I'm drinking my Thai tea. I finally hunted it down at the Asian market, so I made my own at home.
Okay.
And the first question I always ask all of our guests is what age did you become an adult if you feel like you've reached that age yet?
So, interestingly enough, sometimes I'll like walk into my crib and be like, "Dang, I'm grown. Like I'm an adult." But if I had to give an age, I would say around like 31, 32. The reason being is because um at 31, I got engaged, and then at 32, I got married. So I saw that as a big, like, yo, now I'm like a grown ass man type thing. And I also purchased a house too. So it's just like, yo, I'm really doing big boy things like paying big boy taxes and stuff, wearing a wedding ring and things of that nature. So it's just like, yeah, I got to put childish things behind. But then other times, I'm just like, I don't feel like doing nothing. I don't want to do nothing around the crib. I don't want to go to work. I don't want to pay no bills. Like, bring me back to childhood. But I would say like 31, 32. That's when I really realized like, yo, I'm really an adult. I'm really a grown man.
Yes, and I very much resonate with I don't want to go to work. I don't want to pay bills. I don't want to do things around the house. Hence why the house looks crazy now because you can only do what you can do in one day and there's not enough time in a day. And this kind of goes into the topic of our conversation from you mentioning that you feel like you became an adult because you got engaged and that made you feel like, okay, I'm taking another step into adulthood. So how did you feel like all the things in your life before that led to you getting to that point? So like walk us through, not from birth obviously because we'd be here all day, but like what were things like before you got to that point of feeling like an adult for yourself?
Well, first, you can kind of see it, but it's a HBCU thing. What you know about that, right? So I am a Hampton University graduate, and really that shaped my foundation of who I am today. Whether that have just been involved in extracurricular activities, but first just being on my own for the first time, without any parental supervision for an extended period of time. So it really was, hey, it's up to me to get up, go to class, feed myself, wash clothes. And by all means, I literally had to learn how to wash clothes like a month before I left for college because I didn't do it growing up. And also, I didn't know how to cook. So until I moved off campus and had some of my sisters like show me what to do, don't lie, no lie. Like I'll never forget one time, like my boy walked in. I made some chicken. He pulls it out of the oven before I do, and he was just like, "Man, your chicken don't look like it got no soul, bro. Like, did you just learn how to cook?" And I was just like, "Yes, actually." I literally
That's
just did it.
hilarious.
But yeah, no, Hampton was really my foundation, and kind of just taught me from there, and with all the jobs and things that I've gotten afterwards. Because for me, there's always a learning opportunity in everything. Whether that be, oh, I want to continue to do this. I liked how this person did this, or I like the role I was doing, or how I was putting effort in. But then there's also what you learn that you don't want to do. I'm just like, man, that person was a terrible boss. I'll never talk to somebody that way, or I'll never manage somebody that way. And ironically, that's actually how I picked up my management style. Was more so of seeing what I didn't like and then incorporating what I did like.
Yes, and I completely agree with that. I feel the same way, especially when it comes to work and of us going through higher ed. It's like there were unfortunately a lot of bad managers or bad leaders, and you were just like, "Why are you doing this? I'm not going to do that." And I think that that does translate to adulthood too. That just overall, even outside of work, you see adults doing things that you like, you see adults doing things that you don't like, and that's usually what drives us as people to figure out what we want to do because of what we saw somebody else do or not do. How did you decide that you wanted to go to college?
Um, it wasn't a question. It wasn't a choice, hands down. So just talk a little bit about my background. Like I grew up in an upper middle class household. Jack and Jill kid. Everybody like for those who know Jack and Jill, they're like, "Woo, you was in Jack and Jill, okay?" And it's so funny.
This makes sense now.
So how I just laugh right there. So after my coworkers a few weeks ago found out that I grew up in Jack and Jill, now they make fun of my laugh. They be like, "Give me that Jack and Jill laugh," and I be like,
It is giving like Carlton from Bel Air, the Breakfast of Bel Air. Now that you say it,
so it wasn't a choice. But the choice was where I wanted to go. Um, so how I got to Hampton was interesting. So I went to a predominantly black, diverse high school um, in Jersey, and then I was just like, I don't want to be around so many black people, to be honest. But then because I wanted more diversity in what I was doing, people who I interacted with, just to for me to be more well-rounded individual. But then after having conversations with a few HBCU graduates, whether that be aunts, uncles, cousins, like they really drill down, like, no, you can get all of that at an HBCU too, and so much more. So by the time that happened, it was after all admission deadlines. So at this point, it was between Hampton, Lincoln, Del State, Howard, and I believe there was one more that I can't remember for HBCUs. So for me, Hampton was the furthest away.
you're like, get me out of here.
Essentially, yes, because I'm just like, yo, my parents just can't pop up on me. Like, they gotta, make some type of coordinated effort to come see me. So it was furthest away. But then I also heard about the ratio between men and women. It was basically like, I want to say like 4 to 1 or something like that. Sign me up. Sign me up. Oh, and it was on the waterfront too. So Hampton being like the only HBCU on the waterfront, well, we can share those stories for another time. But so that's actually how I ended up going to Hampton. Yeah, it might seem a little vain, but that's my truth, right? And it's okay for making some decisions that it doesn't have to be real in depth. It doesn't have to be researched and whatnot. Because going into college, at that point in time, I knew I was going to go to law school. So every college basically has a pre-law track. So it really didn't matter.
Mm-hmm.
But after I got to Hampton, um, and started that pre-law track. Like I did an internship with the Commonwealth Attorney's Office, and overall, I just wasn't feeling it. So another possibility was getting my master's. So I already knew um, before I graduated, this was just the first degree to at least get a second degree. So really,
Okay.
passion was working in higher education. So I got a master's in college student development and counseling from Northeastern, and was that really made me happy. That really made me get up and want to go to work on a daily basis. But as you know, Amber, from working in Res Life, I didn't mind not paying rent too. So that's also why I think I really
Bring me back.
go. Yes, bring me back to not paying rent. Side note for those who don't know how that works, yes, we don't pay rent, but we live on campus amongst the college students. So
You are paying with your mental health.
yes, yes, and no privacy, and they want you to work all the time. So, kind of going back to the previous question a little bit, is I have great work life balance with seeing like employers and stuff not attribute that. But that also translates into personal life too. So people always generally ask me like, "Yo, how do you have great work life balance?" Well, I don't mind not doing work when I get home. When I'm leaving my office, I put my work phone on silent. and I don't look at it until the following day, unless like
Yes.
I know I'm anticipating something and will need to get something done. But other than that, out of sight, out of mind. It doesn't come with me on vacation, nothing. But also that translates into the personal life as well. It's having a balance with spending time with the wife, spending time with friends. I'm also a doctoral candidate, so just trying to get this school done. And it's really just planning to make sure, as best as I can, kind of satisfy everyone, but also myself.
Yeah. So college wasn't a choice because your mom went to college as well.
Hmm.
She's an AKA that I do know. Does she have a graduate degree?
Hmm. Yep.
Okay. So basically, that was kind of like a person that you saw that was like, this isn't a choice. You're going to go to college. I went to college, graduate degree, all of that. You get to Hampton because you wanted to be on the water. You wanted to be with the girls. And you wanted to be away from home. That's literally what you said, away from home with the girls and on the water. That is the summary of why you
Want
chose
to
Hampton.
grow and develop as a young man and get
That's not what you led with.
education to set me up for the success that I have right now.
I mean, that's not what you led with. Still, you led with away from home, the girls, and on the water. But you did say like college wasn't a choice, and you knew that like you were gonna go and like develop and all that stuff. But not what you said. At what point? Because obviously I know your career path because that's how we met. Courtland and I have been friends now for like a million years since 2013 in the middle of nowhere, Commerce, Texas. That is where we met.
Middle of nowhere. Like the closest airport was like what hour and a half drive.
Dallas, like an hour and a half, and I can still picture that road. And I feel
Hey,
like I've talked about it. I feel like I've talked about it on the podcast before because it just had the Walmart. There was a diner, there was a Sonic, there was a gas station, there was a Goodwill store, and then it's like if you went down some road somewhere, that's where that little square was with the Chinese restaurant, the little karaoke bar, and like a Mexican restaurant. That was it.
that was it, y'all. And this is supposed to be like a little college town and stuff like that. So,
It
for
was little for sure.
literally we're just back in undergrad doing little house parties and stuff during this internship, just trying to, keep it going. But hey, it brought us together, right? As Amber said, yo, we've been friends since the summer of 13, so it's still rocking.
A long time. Um, but I was getting at that you want to go to law school, but we met through higher ed. So at what point did you decide you wanted to do something different? Because I know you said like law didn't seem like it was it for you, but what brought you to higher ed?
Yeah, so I was heavy involved student leader and whatnot. So like going into college, like I was a freshman class officer, right? And then from there, various class officer positions, SGA, Greek life, you name it. I was kind of like just all over the place because with growing up within Jack and Jill, I was essentially created to be an organization person. So in college, I just joined a bunch of organizations. And really, working in higher ed for me is just being the quote unquote adult version of what I'm already doing as a student and just being that advisor and that oversight. And it was fun because, so I would say going into senior year, that really made me drill down a decision because I needed to know what standardized tests I was taking. I wasn't taking both. So it was going to be the LSAT or the GRE. So during my internship with the Commonwealth Attorney's Office, I had a few conversations with some of the prosecutors, and one sat me down. We had a candid conversation, in which I'll never forget. That he mentioned, if you don't like to read and write, law school is not for you. And I'm just like, you right. I don't like to read and write, which is also why I said I wasn't an adult until early 30s, because that was my
Oh my
mindset.
god.
And when I took the GRE, I didn't study. I I think I signed up on Wednesday and took the test on Saturday. But I
That's
got
not good.
I got a scholarship to grad school. Won't he do it? Yes, he will.
That's not good. So then did you apply to other grad schools? Because for me, I ended up going to Hofstra because I didn't have to take the GRE. My grades weren't good, and I ended up getting the assistantship with them. So, because you took the GRE, though, did you apply other places?
Yes, yes, I did. So initially, I was going to stay at Hampton for grad school. So Hampton had like a student affairs program and whatnot. But then I got into a little trouble. And it kind of,
A mess.
I mean, just a little bit, just a little bit. You can kind of say that story for another day. Or who knows, maybe it might come out a little later on in the podcast. But, I got into a little trouble. And then from that trouble, it basically diminished the opportunity of getting an assistantship a part of that program. Not going to grad school there, but getting an assistantship part of that program. And there's no way I would have stayed at Hampton without having an assistantship in that aspect. Um, so I applied to a few others. I ended up going to Northeastern in Boston. Um, and the reason why I picked that program is because twofold. So I was a student at Northeastern, but my assistantship was at a different college. So it allowed me to get acclimated with the student life and courses and stuff at Northeastern. But my first assistantship was at Mass College of Pharmacy and Health Sciences, which was basically just up the street. So I was able to learn from two different universities at the same time within that first year. My second year, I also had two assistantships. So second year, I was at Tufts University, and then I also did one at in the Office of Student Conduct at Northeastern. So then I got more involved to see in firsthand what the political atmosphere, but what it was like working at Northeastern, not just also being a student. So just getting different opportunities and stuff really attracted me. So that's how I ended up going there. And then I got an
That
MBA.
makes sense. And I do remember you have multiple assistantships, which is crazy for a grad student because going to class is already a full time situation. And then you add on your job. It is nothing part time about it at all.
Nothing, nothing. There were times when I'm just like, yo, how do I have energy? Oh, because I'm young, I'm in my early 20s, staying up late, just taking a Red Bull back when needed, getting a little bit of sleep. Like, hey, that's all good. Like, sign me up. Now, no, I'm trying to be in bed and sleep by 10 o'clock.
I really think back to like being a student leader and even just in grad school, like I never was a person that could pull an all nighter, but just for the amount of things I was doing, like being involved in residence life as an RA, I was an orientation leader, I was an SGA, I was doing things for like the student paper, I'm doing admission stuff. I was like, this is too much. This is too many things. Why am I doing all this stuff? And how did I have the energy? Like you said, I don't understand how I had the energy.
Right. So, how did you make it through all of that? Right. Like, what made you go into higher ed too?
I feel like for school, I wanted to be a social worker. My bachelor's degree is in psychology, and when I went to school, I was like, I wanted to be a forensic psychologist, but when I learned that you have to do science, I was like, I'm not doing anything with science. I don't like science. So then I just switched to psychology, and I wanted to be a guidance counselor or social worker. But when I got involved on campus my junior year, because before that, I was doing stuff on campus, but not as much as when I became a junior. Like junior year is when I was doing all of the big roles on campus. I was an RA, I was an orientation leader, I was NSGA. And I think those are like the top three that are going to give you the most exposure to professionals and people on campus. And my resident director, who I'm actually about to go see, because he now works at another school in New York, but he recommended me to come speak. So I'm doing a paid speaking engagement with his school, which is really cool. Yeah,
Talk
I'm excited because I haven't seen him in years, but he was the one that was like, "Oh, do you want to go into higher ed?" And I was like, "Sir, I'm here to be a guidance counselor, a social worker. My grades are good. I don't know like what this higher ed situation is, but like, sure, I'll sign up for this mentorship program, which was NASPA's program, the NUF program." So I was like, sure, I'll sign up for it. And my senior year, I had a mentor, the vice president of student affairs. I love that lady still. I think about her often because She was an older white woman, but why I appreciated her and just my undergrad experience overall is like we got to experience and talk directly to the vice presidents, the dean of students, directors of departments. And I feel like depending on your school, sometimes you put those people on pedestals and feel like you can't touch them or you can't talk to them, or if you're going to them, it's like you're telling on people. And that really helped me just in my career and overall because it made me realize like these people are human too, and all you have to do is talk to them and find something that you can relate on so that you can build a relationship with them. So she was the one who really helped me in my senior year as my mentor, just figuring out what I wanted to do for higher ed and like what the options could look like. And I did a lot of shadowing with like different departments on our campus. We went to conferences as a student. My senior year, I was at NASPA. I was at like our NYU student affairs conference that they would have. I did the internship at Texas A&M, then I did another internship at Pace. So that's what made me get into higher ed because of my undergrad and somebody just saying like, hey, you should try this out because you're pretty good at it. And I will say now I am good at it. However, I just think that higher ed is very cult like. Like it's very cult like. And when you're out of it, that's when you realize it's cult like. I'm like, what is wrong with us? Like,
Well,
why were we arguing over balloon colors for orientation? Why is the vice president mad we didn't get the right coffee? Like this these things are not big problems that we need to be arguing over and people risking their jobs for. Like we're here for the kids.
all right. So when you say it like that, then yeah, I can see a little bit of what you mean.
Like it gave us good skills and it gave me good people like you and people who are truly my friends outside of the workspace. But when I just think about the day to day, it was like we're here arguing because marketing didn't approve this branding flyer. Like what? Like we have bigger fish to fry. Students have mental health concerns. People are drinking and going to the hospital and being transported. Like we have other issues to figure out.
But I will say, like, one of the benefits I honestly didn't realize maybe until last year, like, fully realize is working in higher ed, when you have a graduate assistant that supervises, then you are already learning the skill to manage managers. I didn't realize that for years. Whereas some people don't develop those skills until they are older. And
Oh,
like
yes.
sometimes I'd be scratching my head and I'm just like, what are you doing? Why are you coming across like this? Like, have you not managed nobody? Oh, you haven't. But we get that
Yes.
experience so young, if you want to say that. And even being like an RA first, right? We're supervising our residents. As a graduate assistant, we are supervising our RAs. So in my current role, I'm not supervising anybody, which I love. This is my first time
Same.
since becoming an RA. So basically, I became an RA second semester of my freshman year, which was 2007. I started my current job in December of 2022. So between spring 2007 and December of 2022, I have always supervised somebody. Bonkers. And I'm just like, wow, I enjoy the freedom of people not texting me in the morning saying, oh, hey, can I come in late? Hey, I can't come in. Hey, I got this going on. Oh, hey, this person is bothering me. Hey, hey, hey. Oh, now it's me. Hey, I can't come in this morning. Hey, this person is bothering me. Hey, can you do something about this? I don't got to worry about nobody else but myself, and it feels nice.
No, I agree. I like not supervising people. I do think I'm kind of getting to the point that I would like to supervise somebody, but only because now I figured out my job and I can do it well. And I have set systems that hiring somebody, they would just like work on those systems that I've already built. That's the
Mm.
only reason why I feel like now at my current job that I would be okay with supervising somebody because I'm growing the program, but I can only do so much as one person. So now I do need another person, but it's been very nice not supervising people because in this job I don't, and then my previous job I didn't, and the job before that I did. So from like 20 2011 through 2022, I was supervising people. And people are horrible in the workplace for the reasons we're saying. Like
Tell me
I'm
about it.
just perplexed every day.
Tell me about it. And I'm just like, yo, why are we so complicated, right, as individuals? But then I'm just like, I wonder what people like say about me because I feel like I'm a simple person. I tell that to everybody who I meet, yo, I'm chill, I'm laid back, and oftentimes people do agree with that. But let me ask you this question. So, because you mentioned that you want to supervise again, and that kind of popped into my mind, like, yeah, actually, I wouldn't, but I wouldn't mind supervising for like the wrong reasons. The wrong reason being, I just want to be a part of the mix. Like, I want to be in the know. I don't like not knowing. Like, why am I not invited to this meeting?
Yeah, I can see that. Yeah.
That right? Like I miss being the one that makes the decisions, or at least just knowing certain information, or sometimes just not even doing the grunt work because stuff trickles down from the
Yeah.
president on down, right? Like, hey, the president tells something to the VP, the VP tells something to the director tells me, oh, hey, I need you to do X, Y, and Z. So it's like who knows where it really originated from, but I ain't got nobody underneath me, so therefore give it to you, so I got to do it. So that's why I want to be a
That's
supervisor.
true.
You know what I'm saying? But how about you? Like, what is your reason and rationale for like really wanting to supervise others?
Well, one reason is because I'm a good supervisor. And I'm not saying that because I'm just saying that for myself. I feel like for me, a test of being a good supervisor is people still reaching out to you years later, for one,
Thanks.
and that you can become friends or still hang out with, or people think about you if they're in your city, or people think about you for recommendations, or they think about you for updating you for graduating, getting married, having kids, moving. Something reminded you of them, or like something happened that they were like, oh my God, you did tell me this, but I didn't believe you until like this happened. So that's one reason, because like you said, there's just such trash supervisors. So I feel like it's because I'm a good supervisor. But then two, because of like what I said for my current job, like things are growing, but I can't continue to do all of the work because we're getting more students in our programs, we're getting more partnerships, and I'm just one person. And I appreciate that my current supervisor also recognizes that. So he does try to protect things that are coming in so that I don't have to be overworked as much as possible. But I feel like I do have a good work life balance as well. That like when I'm home, like I'm not working. Currently my job like doesn't necessarily bother you at all after 5. Maybe it might be like 5:30 or something, but depending on the person, which is usually just my supervisor because I have no people under me, which are typically the people that are asking you questions, it doesn't necessarily bother me. And we built a relationship that like if I didn't answer or something, like it wouldn't be a huge deal. um and then I also like think for growth for my career, realistically, like you mentioned too, from the experiences we have, if we want to keep growing or we want to get into a different role, even if it's out of higher ed, most of those roles now that we're qualified for are going to come with supervising people. So to show that like yes, we have supervised people, but to show that we've recently supervised people like in this climate or in our non-traditional higher ed roles, I think matters, because people can't always connect the dots on what we've done in higher ed. Like we know that we were doing crisis management, we were doing building management, we were doing maintenance, we were doing conflict, we were doing paperwork, we were doing admin, we're doing events, small scale events, large scale events, strategic planning. But that doesn't come across when somebody sees resident director at all, or if they see director of student engagement. They think you were just having fun all day, and that's not what we were doing all day at all.
And that's one of the things where whenever I sit on a search committee panel, whatever the case may be, I'm always looking at transferable skills because I hate when people are so close-minded like, oh, we can only get somebody from this specific industry or field. No, you can't. Like, you can get somebody from anywhere because at the end of the day, you still have to train somebody with that particular company's system and policies. So it's just like, why are you automatically turning somebody away that, yes, I didn't come from student affairs, so that means I can't be a student affairs professional. I don't know how many search committees I sat on when a person in a higher position essentially just shot me down. Was just like, well, this person doesn't have this type of experience. They have transferable skills actually. So, for instance, we're talking about residence life. Um, this person who I knew, I helped them out on their resume and things of that nature, and I was pushing for them to at least get an interview. An interview. They shot me down. The transferable skills were they own their own apartment complex. Residence life, you are managing a building.
I really think people think about it differently. Like they don't see it because anything with education, honestly, like a teacher, a high school, a college, like people don't equate that you are doing way more than just being a teacher. You're doing way more than being a vice president. Like there's so many things that go into it, and working like in my current job, or even just thinking about like what can be next, and even comparing it to the adulting queen, like I really do know that the things I can do with the adulting queen is because of the transferable skills I've learned in higher ed, and the networking and the relationships I've built for people who are either still in higher ed that are able to utilize the adulting queen, or they've transitioned out of higher ed but they still do something or know somebody that can be connected with my business as well.
Mm.
And people just cannot see the transferable skills. I don't understand.
No, right, just so close minded. And it's just like the person who I'm thinking of with that specific example in residence life didn't come from a residence life background at that.
They never do. And that's the part about like hiring, and it goes to your point that you said of like people that are in positions, and you're just like, what are you thinking, or like, how did you learn things? But I, all the conversations I have on my podcast ends up being things that unintentionally were talked about in other spaces with other places, other people. But my coworker and I were just saying, like, how did we learn what we know now? And why are we looking at all these other people like they're crazy? And it's because of training, and training has gone out the window because the pandemic, people were just like, get the work done. We're hiring people, we're firing people. Okay, we're hiring people back, but they didn't take time to train or like talk to people about what you said of like, what are policies, what are procedures, how do we do things. They're just working and making no sense.
But ironically, or interestingly enough, what kind of just popped into my head is higher education made me a little soft, right? And or not soft, but a lot more empathetic, in which a lot of my friends are not. Meaning, like the amount of trainings that we had to sit through and then therefore conduct for our staff members, um, like emotional intelligence and some other stuff, where it's just like, all right, let's really break this down. Let's listen to what people are saying, or what's out now. I'm here to listen and not judge. Same thing applies. Like, hey, let's listen to what the concerns are and see how we can help out as much as we can, right? And really be that empathetic person, more so than just being real with that individual, depending on situation or circumstance. So, since I transitioned out of higher education, I still am kind of catching myself in a way, or others kind of telling me, I'm like, why do you like you set these deadlines and these clients are not upholding to them, and you're not like pushing back aggressively and stuff like that. You know how many years of training I've had to not push back aggressively? or really not push back,
Yeah.
you know? So it's kind of, as I transition out of higher ed, it's just like kind of reprogramming, excuse me, my brain to the industry that I'm in now, and necessarily not giving so many chances to folks.
No, yeah, I can see that because it very much depends on the situation in higher ed, like whether they're gonna bend or not, and it also depends on like the culture of your school. And for anybody that's not in higher ed listening, I think that like these still apply to any career, that you just need to have boundaries, a work-life balance. You need to have people that you trust to be your mentors or people that can help train you and help guide you through your next steps of your career. Because talking to your friends is cool, but you need a professional mentor, a professional person in your field and that knows your field as well. Because if somebody doesn't know your field, they can only give you but so much advice about certain things. I do believe that in work there are things that are general across the board, but then you do get to like nuances of like law. You can't just be like, I'm just going to be a lawyer. Like, you got to go to law school. You have to do the LSAT. Those are things that I'm not equipped to give advice on. But what I can tell you is you should network. You should research your field. Like, you should see, like, what is going on with, like, different laws and stuff that affect what's going on in your field. If you want to be a doctor, like, you just can't be like, I'm going to suck at science and I don't want to talk to people, but I want to be a doctor. Like, there's things that you have to consider for different fields, and I find that now, especially people in their 30s, and I mean, I feel like I'm not experiencing this too much now, but with my last job and like transitioning out of traditional higher ed into school, people are kind of trying to think like, what do they want to do with their careers? Because the bottom line is we don't want to work, really. Like, we're good at what we do, but we don't want to work. So we're trying to figure out like, how do we exert the least amount of energy at work, but still get paid a decent salary to survive and still do something that we like doing, which is hard,
Mhm.
which
Well,
is
I
a
would say
hard
like
thing to
two things
do.
kind of come to mind. Yeah. Um, so totally agree about the whole mentorship aspect. So like a few years ago, a different concept came to mind, whereas everybody should kind of have their own board of directors. So with that, you have kind of different mentors in a way where yes, you have somebody in your field if you're looking to transition to another field, then having somebody in that field, having somebody that's good with finances, having somebody that is good in relationships or marriage, right? Having somebody that's like your spiritual advisor, if that's where you want to choose. So having different people that have different specializations to kind of round it out, because as you mentioned, yeah, a mentor can only help with so much based off of the expertise and knowledge that they have. So you need to make sure you have other people in your corner that can also further assist you, develop you, help you grow as a person, right? So, oh, sorry, and another one I forgot is a sponsor. A mentor is not technically a sponsor.
Yeah, we're working on that because I feel like we had better sponsors when I was in undergrad because people, this is another thing. I need to explore this further, like in like a podcast episode or something. But I do feel like when we're getting older, people invest in you less when it comes to money wise. I feel like think about when you're a kid. Every birthday, you're getting money, you're getting gifts. You're going to college, you're graduating from high school, you're moving to your first apartment, like you're getting money, you're getting gifts. And there's some point that we as people are just like, you're an adult, you're good. We're not good. Like we're not good at all. But there's a point that people feel like that you're good and you're an adult, so you should be responsible for doing these things yourself. But I think if we have more of a community mindset around money, or like not even just like randomly giving people money, but gifts or like that aspect of investing in each other, it would be a different thing and people could get a little farther.
No, I agree. I agree. Where, it's been this age old tale um, that people say, how come learning how to do taxes or managing a budget and things of that nature is not taught in school? And people have been saying this for generations. Why hasn't that happened, right? There's a lot of conspiracy theories out there. I'll agree with one where it's just like, because they don't want everybody to have the knowledge. Because everybody needs to at least go to K to 12, or in most states, I think at least until 10th grade or until you turn 18, right? So if it's a mandatory subject, then a lot of people can do a lot more. So it's kind of keeping folks divided with the haves and have-nots. That's my conspiracy theory of the
Yeah.
day.
No, I agree. The world's a crazy place. Um with the conversation around like community and people, want to shift a little bit but still connects, and I feel like I already know your answer just from knowing you, but I really would love to talk about this because one thing for me, I've been doing better at having conversations that aren't difficult to me, but like more so of like, I don't really want to give my full opinion because
Mm.
that's when the discourse can start. But now, honestly, for doing this for so long now, I'm just kind of like, I need to give my opinion on things more versus just giving out like facts. But this is a huge thing on social media. I honestly try to avoid looking at these things because I think it's crazy. And sometimes it's honestly just lies. But the topic of can men and women be friends and have platonic relationships with just not anything ever happening. So obviously I already know your answer, but I would just love to hear your perspective on it and kind of like how do you think that coexists?
Well, we friends and we ain't never got it on. So
Bro, the way you said it, and that's how like I know your answer, but I've obviously never sat down and talked like in depth about like why do you think this way or like how can you explain to other people like just your version because you also have a lot of female friends too. So just like how does that coexist, especially when you're in a relationship, you're married and stuff like that.
yeah, so I definitely think there's layers or levels to it. So at least my only opinion, I think people can be platonic if there's not an interest or like there, um, by both parties. I think potentially you can still get away with it even if one person might find somebody like the opposite sex attractive or potentially might want to try to pursue something but the other person doesn't. I think yes, you can still be platonic in that way, because I do have a friend like that where she has been interested in me throughout college, but we were like just such good friends, and we just kept it that way, um, even till this day, right? Sorry, not to say that she's still interested in me till this day, but indicating that yes, we've been just able to keep it on a friends basis this entire time, in which we have talked through different things, talked about relationships and whatnot. But where I don't see it necessarily working out is if there was some type of physical connection that did happen and then go back to it, because I do feel that that platonic friendship can't stay platonic all the time. Like there's flirting that happens more or little gestures and things of that nature. So particularly if that person's partner knows or doesn't know. So if they don't know and then they find out after the fact because they see different signs, because I do believe people do things subconsciously, also consciously, as well. So in that regards, no, I don't believe it. Just cut your losses at that point, because there's so many people out in the world where you can be friends with. Like, why hold on to this person? But also, it's just like, yeah, stop being physical for a reason. But now it's just a friendship. I don't know. That's just my thought.
Yeah, the verdict's out. So basically, okay, I hear that. And how would you give advice to somebody to talk to their partner if they're in a relationship with somebody about friendships with the opposite gender, and especially if that person doesn't agree on the subject? Because I think there's some people that are just like, no, like you can't have guy friends. I don't have any girlfriends, or like I don't believe in that, or it's kind of like situational.
For me, I will say it's not my business. What's best for y'all, then it's y'all. But it's having that conversation, it's having that understanding. So if one person is saying, I don't want you to have friends of the opposite sex, and you wholeheartedly disagree with, then y'all are gonna consistently bump heads, and then therefore that relationship won't have a solid foundation. And you're gonna consistently argue about something because something pissed you off when you are out in public now with a group of people, and you know your partner's introducing you to folks or how they are interacting with their opposite sex friends, because you already have it in your mind like, why are you even talking to this person? So everything that that person does is going to be suspect in your mind and just going to continue to piss you off. So it's really just having those hard conversations and those hard truths, especially as you get older. So for me, it's like, and I met my wife. We had very in-depth conversations, very early on to be like, so we're not wasting each other's times, and that really helped build our foundation. Um, for our marriage. Granted, yes, we still bump heads about different things, different aspects, different people, and whatnot. But for the most part, we are aligned in a lot of things. Um, but with the whole opposite sex in friendship, I think that can really create a burden on any relationship if one person disagrees with that. And my recommendation would not to move forward or to end that relationship, but also my recommendation is let me sit back in my business.
Like, yes, you as a spectator, mind your business, but your advice is to just make sure you have conversations with people. I also think that men and women can be platonic friends. And as I like think about my male friends that have been platonic, like nothing's ever happened, most of them honestly are from college or from like in college time, like early career. And I haven't really made too many new platonic friends, I would say, like as exactly what you're saying is like as you're getting older. Um so I feel like all of my male friends are people I've known for a long time, and it was from college. Like I also believe that like you going to college helps you to interact with the opposite gender in a different way, because think about like if you never went to college, people talk about how it's really hard to meet friends and meet people. So I feel like if you don't go to college or you're not in a space of people with a common interest, common goal as you, where are you going to meet people like that have those similarities? I think that if you were to meet somebody, it would be kind of like an instant attraction, or you'd be like, I'm trying to talk to them kind of thing. You're not going to see somebody and
Mm,
try to approach them as a friend.
that's a good
Versus in college, you're just like, "Hello, everybody. We're all here together. We're broke. We do a 555 pizza. Like,
point.
who could give me a ride to the train?" Like, it's stuff like that that I feel like really births like those friendships in the opposite gender. And I feel like if you didn't go to college, it's not impossible to meet friends as the opposite gender. But like, what are you talking to them about? Like, you're not necessarily like friends.
That's actually a good point, and I just started to think about my opposite sex female friends. Yeah, the good chunk of them are from college or when I moved back to Jersey. That's when Group Me was live and big. So that was like
Oh
2015.
my god, groupie.
Word, right? There was a group chat for everything. And then that's when like the young black professionals group chats just started launching all over the place for different states, different regions, different disciplines, whatever the case may be. So I also got a lot of my opposite sex friends just from that group chat and hanging out and things of that nature because like we generally met in group settings and stuff and just kept meeting in group settings. So therefore it was just like, oh yeah, no, like y'all are actually cool and stuff like that. Like they're we're not trying to do any type of romance or anything like that. Like, yo, we vibing. It can be cool, right? Because oftentimes when people get into new relationships and the partner shares like, oh yeah, this is my friend, but we have history, then the mind starts spinning, right? Um,
And that's different. I can see that.
yeah, yeah. So it, to be honest, I'm all for like platonic relationships, and friendships, opposite sex, like hands down. There's no reason why we can't. We're human beings. Yes, we have different body parts, but that doesn't mean we always trying to do something with our body parts to somebody, right?
Yeah. I mean, and I think that men and women need platonic relationships to understand each other, because that's like when I was saying, like, there's all the discourse on social media all the time. Women aren't men and men aren't women. And yes, like, people try to say, like, I don't need a man, or I think like a man, or you're acting like a female, blah, blah, blah. But at the end of the day, like, we are biologically wired very differently to coexist with each other because we need each other. So I think that you need platonic relationships to understand the other gender. Like there's no way that you could just have all women friends, because then I feel like it does get into the catty like, oh, men aren't this, men aren't that, blah blah blah. But you're not asking a man, or you're not talking to a man or interacting with somebody to see how they act or respond to certain things.
And it's interesting that you say that, because like a lot of my lady friends will say that a lot of their friends are actually men because we're less judgmental.
I feel like I
And
have a good mix, and I'm laughing at you saying my lady friends, because
I,
that then
I didn't,
sounds
I, I
like
was just like, snap. Um,
we know you don't mean it like that, but that was funny. Me
yeah,
and my lady
yeah.
friend.
I was trying to be like PC with it, and whatnot, because I'm like, don't can't say girls, you can't say a few things. So lady popped into my head, then I'm like, after I said it, I'm just like, why did I say that? That sounded so bad. So thank you for calling me out on that, so I can like correct myself. Um,
He does not have lady friends, everybody. He has women, the
uh,
people of the opposite gender. He does
yeah,
not mean lady friends like that.
word. Man, I had another point and I just forgot because that was a good laugh. I'm not even gonna lie, that was a good laugh.
Because that was funny. But my guy friends also, I think that a lot of them are gay, which sometimes is hard to believe. Like I do remember one time when I was like just meeting somebody, like dating, they were like, what do you mean like all of your male friends are gay? And I was like, most of them are. Like I'm not even trying to lie about that. Like they really are. Because that was another thing that people said, like, oh no, like he's gay, to try to cover up like that they did something or that they're more than friends. But most of my guy friends are gay. Courtland's out, everybody. Just want to point out too, in case you're listening. In case that wasn't clear, Courtland is not, but
Like for people,
most of them are.
you know. Hey, I accept people for who they are.
Exactly. But I think that it's also like just being in education and in higher ed, like that just is the majority. So I'm sure that probably in your early career, people probably just assumed for you too, just because most of the
Oh,
guys in
fact.
higher ed
Oh,
are gay.
fact.
And a straight male, especially a straight black male, was a unicorn in higher ed. Like you would never find that.
That's all I'm gonna say is facts on that. It's facts on that.
Like it's crazy. And
Word, and like,
honestly, when I even try to think, I can only think about you, my friend Sam, mm, my friend Eddie.
but
But
ironically,
that's
I
real slow.
I did not know that until somebody told me that. Like because especially working in higher ed, we are well. One, I was accepting everybody for who they were, even growing up, right? But in higher ed and working on college campuses, it's really accepting people for who they are because sometimes being on a college campus for students, that is their only outlet to truly be who they are. There's plenty of times, particularly for my LGBT plus Q community, where they have said that when they go home, they act on their gender that was assigned at birth, right? Or only display those qualities. Whereas on campus, they are living their best lives. Um, so
Exactly.
it's interesting that you said that, and it's like, yeah, over time, I had to like in conversations, I'd be like, "How did you get that?" And they'd be like, "Oh, I just assumed," and that's when I started to pick it up, and it was just like, all right. So, but it is what it is, in that regards. But it's ultimately just accepting people for who they are.
Yes. So both of us agree men and women can have platonic relationships. I would love for people listening to let me know, because I think that at least the people I know, I would assume most of them agree, but you never know. And then when you think about like you're dating somebody, you're in a relationship, that can change because of boundaries and just the person that you're with, like what they think and how they view things. But I really do believe too, going to college changes, I don't say change your view, but it makes you more inclined to have friends of the opposite gender because of the situations that you were in. And I could see how if you really weren't in spaces again in community that you had a common goal, or like kind of even just like on a similar playing field, even if you think about it like that, of like that is what you're doing when you're in college. Like all of you came from somewhere different, but you're all here for the same thing and hoping to get your degree and like become a professional or whatever it is. And that's just different than like meeting somebody randomly on the street or something,
But I would also
or
add,
at a party.
no facts, right? Because sometimes it'd be like ulterior motives, or the other person to think you have ulterior motives when you're just trying to have a
Yes.
conversation and stuff like that. Like I moved around a lot, so for me, wherever I was at, like yeah, I'm just trying to meet people to make friends because I'm in a new state, a new city,
Yeah.
whatever the case may be. But also adding on to having friends of the opposite sex, what's good is advice and gift giving. I ask my female friends for advice on gifts all the time. And then my wife be like, "Oh man, this is really oh you came up with this," and I say no. I do say no. Well, first I'll be like, "Yeah, you know, it's all up here," and then she give me a look, and be like, "Yeah, you're right." I asked some of my friends, right? Or whenever I might get upset at something, or we have an argument, like before, I might have a follow up with my wife. It's I might at times I'll spit something off to my female friend, and just say, "Hey, like, what do you think?" And I try to give like all sides, right? Because I truly do want that feedback, just to see like, am I truly in the wrong? Is she in the wrong? Are we both in the wrong? Are we both in the right? And we just didn't understand each other, whatever the case may be. So sometimes it does help, to talk to the opposite gender, to get that perspective, which could therefore help in those follow up conversations.
Yeah, I agree, and I think that too. As just we're getting older, like this sounds so crazy every time I say as we're getting older, but really, I feel like our priorities and just like our conversations have very much changed. Like we're not like, oh,
Like
we about to go meet at brunch. I mean, we'll still go to brunch, but like we're
that.
not just doing that every weekend, or like we're not like, oh, we're going out, whatever. Now we're talking about the house, talking about how to play these bills,
Mhm.
kids, people get married. Like this is
Well,
crazy.
I love a good brunch, so I can actually be at brunch almost like every week. I'm not gonna lie. I'm
I
not gonna.
mean, we do still go to brunch, but it's not like, oh, Courtland, I'm at brunch right now. Let's go. You're like, oh man, hold on, I got to go next weekend because I'm working on my dissertation. I have a work event. Like, it's not the same.
Correct,
Not
right?
the
It's
same.
not drop everything and stuff can like be on holds. It's just like, yeah, now we got to plan this out a little bit. Hey, send me a calendar invite.
Exactly, which is just not the same, which is
Right.
horrible.
And I use calendar invites for like so much stuff because especially as we get older, I'm just like sometimes I just need to remember shit. Or as
Yes.
somebody wants to plan something, then I'm looking on my calendar to see if I'm even free. So I use calendar invites
Yes.
for like almost everything, even for reminders. Yes, there's a reminders app, so I use that too. But sometimes I just use both, and it is so helpful and like has kept me out of trouble in different ways.
This is being elderly.
Huh,
Um,
adulting.
the last the last thing is give me two things you do for self-care as a black man, and then you can ask me a final question before we close out.
Ooh, two things I do for self care as a black man. For sure. As I talked earlier about like having a balance, hanging out with my guys, real talk. Like that is to me a form of self care where it's literally just us and we're shooting the shit, right? And just acting dumb. Like hashtag black boy joy. You know what I'm saying? Like sometimes women be like, man, when guys just get together, we, regardless of relationship status, we trying to be out in the streets, we trying to bring women over. Nah, we just be talking, playing video game, doing random dances, like, just be goofy. Like we are goofy human beings. We are like as they say, it takes men longer to mature in life than women. Sometimes I'll be like, yo, I'm so immature. Like, why am I doing this? But hey, I'm having a good time, right? I'm dancing, I'm smiling, or whatever the case may be. And we just chilling, like, with us guys. Um, Another thing for self care is just having just me time, right? So with everything that I got going on, um, everybody should have time just to focus on themselves, excuse me. Because how can you pour into others when your own cup is not full, right? So,
Exactly.
exactly. So it's like, whether that be, so for instance, like I got a man cave. My wife is not allowed to come in unless I invite her in here. Hands down.
I mean, boundaries. And does she have her own space?
She does. She does.
Do
Right?
you have to be invited?
I do. Unless I'm taking out the trash. And then at that point, I can just walk in there and grab the trash and leave.
Okay. That's the
uh,
only reason.
is the only reason. Yeah. But, it's important just to be able to be within your own thoughts at times, do whatever you want to do privately. Like sometimes I'll be up like all night just watching a Netflix series, and I'll be like, oh shit, like it's so late. But it's also not an issue in my relationship because I'm not down here talking on the phone at a side piece or anything of that nature. Like, yo, I'm just having me time, watching the TV, having a little drink. Like, I got a little bar thing over here too in my cave, so I don't even have to go upstairs to our joint bar cart. I can just pull up, like just walk over to the corner
Yeah,
and
that house has an abundance of alcohol always.
not alcoholic stuff. Uh, we do. We like to drink, right? We like to have fun and things of that nature. We like to entertain, so we just want to make sure that we always at least have something for just random drop-ins or for planning. But yeah, hanging out with friends and well, excuse me, hanging out with my guys, but then also having me time are two self-care things that I believe are important and that help re-energize me.
We love that. Thank you for sharing and all the things that you said here. I think that people are going to like this episode. I'm sure that they will because we had a lot of different topics and great things and discourse that's happening on social media, but we didn't do it in a discourse way. Lastly, question that you have for me that you would like to ask. Could be about anything. People have asked random stuff.
Okay, about anything. Okay, all right. So you're doing this podcast thing on your own. Are you looking to get a co-host?
I'm not just shooting your shot for the co-host. People, let me
I,
know
I
if
said
Courtland
my
should
God.
made the
Those
cut.
words did not come out of my mouth. Y'all, rewind, rewind. Those words did not come out of my house. But hashtag adulting prince. Woo!
So no, okay, so I haven't thought about a co-host recently, but like at some points of just like building out the adulting queen, I have been like, oh, it'd be really cool to have like the adulting king, and not necessarily that that's somebody that I'm with or dating, because that's how some people pictured it, and I was like, no, like
Prince. Come on. You know what? I don't want to steal your right. You created this, right? You know what I'm saying? All glory and honor to you. You know what I'm saying? This is your platform. I'm just here to assist the queen in the role.
so we'll see what the people say. People weigh in when you're hearing this, but I
Oh my
hadn't necessarily thought about like a co-host per se because I always do the podcast by myself and I like the guest episodes a little more than solo, but I try to mix in solo episodes so that people can hear like my thoughts and my voice and kind of just like what I do more so like not at the speaking engagements, but just like those are more tangible and practical and like updates on my life. But I really like the guest ones because I like talking to people. I like people telling their stories and I like people being able to relate and really realize that like everybody is going crazy through adulting and we're just doing the best we can do. But for a co host, the first kind of like trial, which wasn't even like an intentional trial, is like Sippin Sunday Live when I have Sharif hosting and doing it that way. So I have thought about him, but then he just moved and left me. He went to Atlanta, so not that he can't still do it, but I feel like to do it with a co-host, I feel like would be fun. It would be consistent, and it actually would have to be somebody like I know and feel comfortable with to have conversations with ongoing. And I think it would make things easier for sure in the long run. But then I also thought about like, people have multiple podcasts. So what if it was like a whole different podcast on itself with a co-host? I think that could be cool.
Yeah, no, for sure. I was kidding, but not kidding at the same time. Uh,
No, you're not kidding. I know you're not kidding. So people weigh in. Did Courtland make the cut? Did he make the cut?
so no, all right. So to add more commentary, so this is my first podcast, right? And Amber and I had a conversation on the side, like prior to, because people have told me like, oh yeah, I would be good at hosting a podcast, and so when Amber and I were talking about for me coming on here, I'm just like, man, I don't even know how I would do. I feel like I might bomb, but I feel like I might do a great job. Even yesterday, I was just like, man, we about to rock this shit. Like, yo, it's gonna be lit, right? And here's already co-signing already. Like, yeah, yo, we had a
Yeah, you did really well. And I feel like people coming on my podcast and people who've listened and just people who know me, this I was thinking about this today. This is an unserious, serious podcast. Like I am serious about Courtland. Please stop your glaring. If you are watching this on YouTube, you see this man is schmoozing the camera. If you're listening, you missed it, but go on YouTube and look at his facial expressions. Please let me close out my podcast. Um, but oh Lord, lost the train of thought.
yeah.
That
Well,
I think that you did well and fine. And the thing, okay, everybody stick with me. You know that this is what happens when I'm getting excited and too many thoughts are racing before I can actually say it. So my podcast is an unserious, serious podcast. Unserious in the way that like I just want conversations to be organic. I don't do much editing. I really barely do editing. It's like this is as is. This is real because I feel like with social media and just people posting stuff, you never know what's real. And I'm gonna tell you that this podcast is real.
exactly.
Like this is exactly what we are saying. There's been very few episodes where I had to fix anything or like take something out. So I'm unserious about like content, and I don't care if like somebody hasn't been on a podcast. I've had so many podcast guests come on that this was their first podcast they were on, and nobody would ever know that if you didn't like say it. And I think that I love that this is the first podcast people are on because they do get nervous and then they do get excited and they're like, oh my God, like I'm gonna go be on another one, or I'm gonna reach out to somebody else that like I've listened to their podcast and I want to be on it. So I think that this podcast, I hope people feel like you're just on the phone with your friend, hanging out, laughing along, and then
This
that's
is
it.
why I like your podcast, right? And like
Thank you.
I just overly just like the concepts, and whatnot. So I almost wore the crew neck, but it had a stain.
Oh yes, you should have, but your HBCU stuff is fine.
No, I literally had it on, and there was like a stain right here that would have been like mad noticeable. And I'm just like, son of a gun. So it's the one that says adulting is lit, crossed out, and it says ghetto. And I'm just like, yes, adulting is ghetto. But
Yeah, it's
also,
poo.
just kind of one last thing for like the audience or whatever. As I talk to friends, particularly like married men, and whatnot, but just generally friends overall, and especially for my guys, right? The hardest thing for us to do is being vulnerable to other men. But once you say one thing, for the most part, it's just like, yo, you too? And then it
Exactly.
immediately the walls go down and we vibing back and forth. Yeah, it might be some topics here and there that you might not, it might be too sensitive, but I bet you if you say it, it's generally, for the most part, 9.9. I wouldn't even say 9, 9.9 out of 10. People are going through the same thing. I literally had a conversation with my VP yesterday, and I literally told her that a lot of us, or basically everybody, we are so similar, just in different bodies. That's it.
Yes, I feel like everybody could find something that you relate to anybody about. It doesn't have to be that you're going to be best friends or that you are like lifelong soulmates, anything like that. I think everybody can find something to relate to somebody about. And you can leave it at that. Again, you don't need to be best friends. You don't need to be chit chatting every day, all day. And you can just find something similar. And if you just took the time to actually listen to people and interact with them, like we're not that different. Like we have different qualities, we have different things we like, we think differently, but we're not really that different.
Facts. Big facts on that. So like I said, hey, I enjoyed our conversations and stuff. So y'all vote me up. Come on now, don't leave me hanging. America,
Yeah, we'll see what the people say.
it's your time to tune
We're
in.
leaving this
Oh,
in the people's hands. Exactly. But I appreciate you being on. This was a wonderful time. I appreciate sharing your story because the thing I always say too, like one this time around, I wanted to have more male guests, and they've been coming out the woodwork now. When I feel like the first season and like the first episodes, I was getting more women reaching out, and now it's been a pretty good mix. So I do love that, and then I just love talking to my friends because again, we have known each other for so long, and like not that we don't talk about things, but like we're not sitting down like tell me about your whole life story about how you got to college and what did you do and all that stuff. So I like talking to my friends because I'm usually learning something new while also like highlighting stuff that I do already know for the people that they should know.
same. Like how you ended up at like Hofstra or something. I'm just like, oh, that's how you got there. I'm
Yeah,
just
it's because I had bad grades and didn't want to take the
like,
GRE,
right.
and they let me on in
I'm
with the
like,
assistantship.
I didn't know that. I'm just like, wow, after all these years, right? But it's generally that's not something that would come up in like a normal conversation or like a regular conversation. I would say it's just like, yeah, we've been cool. Like for the most part, I know everywhere that you worked and stuff like that, and the position
Yes.
that you were in and whatnot. And I'm also the firm believer within friendships. Like, hey, you can be friends and not talk every day, not even talk every week. Like some of my boys, it'd be months at times, but we pick up the phone and text like we just talked yesterday, right?
No, exactly.
And
And
that's
also being friends for so
yeah,
exactly. And then being friends for so long too. Like some of the stuff we might have talked about. But we've been friends for 13. Was it? We're in what year?
yeah.
2013. We're in 2025. We've been friends since 2013.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna remember.
I was about to be. I literally was like, yeah, to 13 years too. Then I was just like, wait, no, we met in 13.
No, it's 12.
Yeah, we met in 13. Yep. So it'll be 12 years this summer.
Like I don't remember all these things that you've said or what's been going on. Who knows?
But I just want to thank you again for allowing me the opportunity to come on and for all seriousness, I definitely appreciate this opportunity giving me just a platform just to share my opinion, share my story. So thank you. Kudos to you.
Yes, so people weigh in if you'd like Courtland to be back at some point. And I appreciate you being here. Hope everybody enjoys this episode.